Now, the FIFA World Cup 2022 is going to start in less than 2 months in Qatar. And the most glaring concern globally is the right of the LGBTQ plus community in this homophobic nation. Now, while FIFA and the Football Association in England keep giving empty assurances about the safety of the gay spectators and the participating players and quote-unquote enabling laws that they continue to harp upon to allow hugging, kissing in public and LGBTQ plus imagery, for example, waving of flags, etc., wearing armbands, there continue to be contrasting statements coming from the Qatari emir and the FIFA officials from Qatar. So while there is this massive discrepancy in what FIFA goes about projecting for the safety of fans, particularly the LGBTQ plus community, there is the Qatar officials, the emir, who continue to speak about following and respecting the local culture of Qatar. So let's open up this discussion. It's a complicated situation that FIFA finds itself in. I'm being joined by Sunil Yashkaura. He's the founder of Indian Sports Fan. Sunil, is this a predicament that FIFA could have avoided? Keeping in mind it was in 2010 that Qatar had put in its offer to host the FIFA 2022.
Well, you've just rightly said, it's exactly the situation that they've got themselves into, and it's not a favorable situation for the host nation as well as FIFA. Now, you've got to understand the intricacies of whenever there is a bid that happens, you've got to look at around 50 odd parameters, and in that parameter it is very clear that LGBT community and apart from the infrastructure, there are some soft issues that one has to take care of, and this is one of it. And exactly, it's like a hot potato, or the Qatar or the FIFA are like the cat on the hot tin roof. They don't know how to react to the situation, and very close to the FIFA World Cup, they've got themselves into this situation. It's sad, but it's true. Megha.
It's sad, it's true, it's unfortunate, and I'm also going to understand from you, Sunil, because there have been a number of these international players, including the English skipper Henry Kane, including the Australian gay striker, who has come out in public and said that he's fearful of his life. He is unwilling to travel to FIFA 22 Qatar venue. There have been other players also that are wanting at this point of time to wear the solidarity band, the anti-discrimination rainbow armbands. Would the Qatari authorities allow that, keeping in mind that waving of gay pride flags, hugging, kissing, PDA is completely banned in the society in Qatar?
Well, you've got to understand the fan. The fan is not only from the eastern part of the world, but 80% of the fans will come from the western part of the world. And here, the PDA is a normal thing. And there are certain societies and the cultural differences are there. But this is not the first time the Qatar authorities are kind of understanding this situation. They've been open to it. They've been through this situation. Once they were making the stadium, that was all right. But what about these other issues that surround a play and a match which happens? But again, coming back, it's a very tough situation that they've landed. They haven't addressed. They've tried to swipe it under the carpet. They haven't got much success, especially when you have players who are openly displaying and are admitting to their, whatever their understanding and their cultural behavior would be. They are like that, and they're okay with that in the western part of the world. And the same should have been here, considering that you attract 80% of the foreign visitors who are coming there to watch the game. So I think these situations have got themselves, the Qatari officials have got themselves into a tough situation right now, Megha.
Okay, Qatari officials in a tough situation, so is FIFA at this point of time. I'm going to get Ranjit Bajaj, he's the owner of Minera Punjab FC. Ranjit, is this fair for the international community, particularly when it comes to the LGBTQ community, to be then facing these trials and tribulations? There are going to be, I think, more than 1 million of these spectators. and including the players, some of them also openly gay. So is this right to put their lives in jeopardy in a state like Qatar? Keeping in mind, because I say that because there have been contrasting statements that come in from the Qatari emir and the organization committee heads and chiefs who go about saying that, listen, we are going to be an open society, we are going to allow for travelers to have PDA and enjoy the match, because it's all about, because what happened in Russia 2018 in Moscow, you know, it's the game, it's the fawa, it's the razzmatazz, it's the glamour, and which includes rock and roll, which includes drugs, which includes sex and everything under the sun. People were there for the 28 days to enjoy the game. So if that's not going to happen in Qatar, wouldn't the fans be disappointed?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I totally agree with you, because see, sports, out of all the things in the world, sports and especially football is about being inclusive with everybody and everybody being equals. The only thing which decides is on the sporting ground and merit. Other than that, there is no discrimination of any kind. In fact, sports is one of the only things which teaches us how not to discriminate on the basis of color, gender, creed, on basis of anything. And that basic tenet of sports, if you take away, or football you take away, then you're taking away from the game. Yeah. If you have any kind of restrictions and people have inhibitions of actually going and hugging each other or giving PDAs, public displays of affection, I think it's very, very unfair, and that should be really frowned on. In fact, these kind of guarantees should be already taken when a World Cup is given to someone, that this is not going to be according to your rules, because it's a world event, it's not Qatar's event. So as long as, if they stick by the rules and they don't actually have the morality police, as they say, taking action against spectators, really hope this is a World Cup which can all enjoy.
Okay, I was particularly appalled by the statement that came forth from the FIFA ex-president. He went about saying, and in jest, if you are from the gay community, you better not showcase your sexual preferences when in Qatar. He has since been removed from his position, not for the statement that he said, but if FIFA is dilly-dallying in this matter versus, and I'm going to bring this comparison in contrast, because what happened in India, and they were extremely strict, and they would not move away an inch from the guidelines and the SOPs and the rule book that they demand every single country and every single federation to follow. So why these discrepancies, why these leeways being given to the Qatari officials, to the Qatari authorities? It's, like I said, 2 months, less than 2 months since the game is going to commence. And not just that, they continue to keep harping upon the point that there are these enabling laws, but nobody knows what these enabling laws are.
this is where FIFA's double standards are brought about. Wherever it suits them and the money is there, they will go after it. Do you really think they could have threatened Qatar with a ban if they didn't follow up with this or take the World Cup away from Qatar? You think they could have even thought of doing that? No, because that's where the money is. So unfortunately, this is the reality we live in, that FIFA, in fact, has to look at its own house first instead of first preaching to others, because FIFA has been ranked as one of the most corrupt sports bodies in the world. And that is proved by the fact that half of the presidents and general secretaries have been into jail and have corruption cases against them. So they kind of should not be telling us how to be living our lives when they can't get their own house in order. That means discrimination starts with them, because they have different rules for some countries and different rules for some countries. And that's what we should have taken up very, very strongly, because if we bend to FIFA, then we bend to all sports organizations in the world and make sure our own rules are never, demanded. So tomorrow, if suppose they come in here to India and then they say that you can't do something which is okay with our law, that is very, very unfair.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, and I wonder why is it that there isn't large-scale protests that are happening. There are protests happening at individual levels, like the English skipper going about saying that I'm going to wear the solidarity band, the anti-discrimination band. But what about these federations? What about these bodies that are all powerful, who have the money, who have the clout, who you can utilize their political power to allow for these changes to take place, but are sitting mum? So that's why my question being, is FIFA the Qatari Real sellout? I'm going to bring in another aspect to this entire discussion. I have with me Rahul Kumar, who's a student of Delhi University, and he is an avid football fan, and he's also an LGBTQ plus activist. He himself is a member of the LGBTQ community. Rahul, it's good to have you on the telecast with us. I'm going to understand from you as an individual, a sports enthusiast, a football enthusiast, things that are taking place or not taking place in Qatar in terms of giving the freedom that the LGBTQ community demands, and it is a human rights issue. How do you perceive the entire 2022 FIFA World Cup taking place in the country?
Actually, first of all, they shouldn't give that kind of a host to any country who is discriminatory, and they are actually on a daily basis, they are snatching our rights. There's a very lot of concerning issues with the minorities like women's rights, workers, and many other issues. And if they are giving a host to such countries, that means they are encouraging them to whatever you are doing in your day life, whatever you're doing, but you are encouraging them the social issues are not matters for them. We know that Qatar, what will we get from this? They will be get billions dollars, they get visitors, they will be get a amount of things. FIFA also, we know that there is a scandal behind it. In 2016, we know that America already declared it, what happened in there, and there are many officials also arrested. And actually, it's a very concerning issue, and they shouldn't do that. I am as a member of LGBT. We know that they are playing on the ground, but it's not a ground at all. It's playing on our graveyard, because there is a LGBT. If you are LGBT, there will be there is a penalty of death if you are a homosexual, if you are engaging in any kind of a homosexual act there. Means there is a grave of many minority groups, and you are hosting your games on our graveyards. So what kind of...
Okay. Your concerns are valid. Your hate and frustration and disdain for the kind of actions that are at this point of time being witnessed by the Qatari authorities is rightful, it's just. And I'm going to come back to Sunil. Sunil, you've heard the rant, and a legitimate one from Rahul and millions of these fans across the globe. There are players after players, and I think you shared with me this very pertinent article that was written by a Manchester United star back in the day. And he was criticizing David Beckham, he was criticizing FIFA, the FA as well, saying that, when you have the clout, why not use it for the just causes? Why bend over backwards is simply because of the money that is being put in by the rich Qatari nation?
Absolutely. You just said it right, that it is purely the money game. And I'm going to echo what Ranjit just said. FIFA is very partial, which is all right, but at the same time, they've got to look at the fan passion, and this is what we are lobbying for. If you're talking about fans, if you're talking about enabling laws, you've got to make it very clear what is there for the fans, what is there for the players, what are the don'ts for the players, and what are the don'ts for the fans as well, which are traveling. And it makes a very pertinent point, because these are the fans who are paying their hard-earned money, coming all the way from both sides of Atlantic just to watch their favorite players play and behave the way that they have been used to in their own atmosphere and their surroundings. But the problem here is the Qatari officials are reluctant, are disdainfully trying to keep themselves away from this important topic of the queer community, and therefore there's so much of angst which is pent up, and you would see that angst is going to suddenly explode in the next coming weeks, as there are no clear laws, there are no clear do's and don'ts, and that is what is adding on.
And then who is going to be responsible for the lives of these fans and spectators, and even the players who are in jeopardy? Because who knows, tomorrow there are FIFA recommended hotels that are not going to go about adhering to the laws that have been put forth by FIFA, and what exactly can the governing body do? Absolutely.
It's a problem that FIFA and the Qatar officials are trying to look into. Now, you mentioned a thing about the security. Now, what Qatar has done is they've imported 10,000 security members from Turkey who will be directly in control of them And this is a very fishy situation, because if anything happens there on that spot, then the blame shifts goes to Turkey. Again, you've got to look at now who's responsible in the playing area, outside the stadium, and in the surroundings. Who's responsible? They're still not clear. Therefore, everybody is like just pussyfooting on this particular incident, and they're just trying to stay away. I think it's a fait accompli moment for the Qatar official as well as the FIFA officials. It's too late in the day for them to take this call right now.
Ranjit, would this be a setback monetarily in building up revenues as well? Because if there's so much negative publicity and there are human rights grounds on which people are then going to be making decisions. In fact, there are players who are reluctant even now to travel to Qatar to play the FIFA matches. Was this a wise decision? I'm going to again come back, made in 2010, and should this set a precedent for the 2023 and the forthcoming FIFA venues that have to be decided henceforth?
I think you're right. Unless we all get together and make a big noise about it, if this is just going to be brushed under the carpet and they're going to say just focus on the football. But I think without human rights, there can be no football. And FIFA is solely responsible. You can't shift the blame to Turkey or even to Qatar, by the way. Yeah. Because FIFA is the one who's allotted them the World Cup. So it's their responsibility to make sure that the basic human rights of equality and no discrimination are met. And if any, this is the least we can ask for. Basic decency of human rights being respected is not something we should be asking for. This is a right.
I agree with you. So why such blatant disregard for these rights? And while there are these really famous individual players are coming about, talking about it in public, there are articles after articles, publications have been vehemently taking the cause of the LGBTQ community. Why isn't stringent action being showcased against FIFA? That's the big question.
I think now we need governments to stand up to them. We need, see, they don't care about India, but if the Europeans, if the fans really want, they should actually ask their governments to stand up against Qatar. They should actually put sanctions on them, because this cannot go on. And if you allow this to happen in 2022, in this day and age, what kind of a message are you sending out to our kids? How are we telling them not to discriminate if they can see their favorite World Cup being shown, and that's the place where the maximum discrimination, like my friend Rahul said, the penalty is death there. And death for what? For being who you are? That's what you're born as, man. So they are being made to live under the fear of death. And that is the country which we are going to for the World Cup. So I think especially the countries which are going, those are the countries which really need to start talking, because no one's going to listen to India talking as much as we want, unless and until we vehemently go out, the fans vehemently go out and make a noise about it.
Absolutely. There's an interesting perspective that I want to bring in, Sunil, and I'll seek your comments on this as well. Would this also be perhaps a wake-up call for these Islamic nations? I'm talking about these extremist Islamic nations like Qatar at this point of time, to allow for global events, the scale of FIFA to take place. There are perhaps lessons that the Qataris will have to learn, that we will have to make our country more inclusive. We will have to allow for people from all walks of life, from all cultures, from all religions, and you'll have to be more tolerant. There was, in fact, at a GGC meeting that had taken place back a few years ago after Qatar decided to host the matches to completely ban the LGBTQ community, but that decision was withheld simply because there was huge money involved. I think $220 billion is the amount that is just the cost of setting up the FIFA venues in Qatar. So is there perhaps a silver lining that something like a kind of a dual setup that has been seen in Dubai? Keeping in mind it's a traveler's destination, it's a tourist destination. There are people from across the globe that travel, and therefore you have to modify your rules. Would Qatar then be next in line to do that? And then the rest of the OIC as well.
Very important point, Megha, you've made. fact number one is when they decided that they're going to host and bid for the FIFA World Cup, Qatar decided these policies, and they weren't naive when they put in the bid paper, because you have to explicitly mention not only about the infrastructure, but also about the human rights and also about the fan and the fan engagement program. Point number two, it is a tourism game which puts all of this together. It's a tourist economy. Again, 87% of the tourism inflow that they're going to get in the next 2 quarters are purely from the football. So it's an important part. Point number three, there will be fans from 122 countries as we speak, and India is on the 7th list of the most ticket holders for the World Cup. Again, if this is the fact, then this is also a defining moment, a silver lining, as you rightly put it. We are on the cusp of history, and it will be created not by the officials, not by FIFA, not by the players. It will be decided by the fans that if they are in a given situation or surrounding, they will invest money in the economy, and the economy tends to grow from there. But if they do anything, if the Qatar officials or the FIFA officials try to clamp down on the freedom, sovereignty of the players and the fans, I think this will be a mayhem which will be, it'll hit the roof.
It'll explode.
Absolutely.
Yes. Ranjit, before I wrap up this discussion, a quick word from you with regards to the global sentiment and the quote-unquote Islamophobia. And we talk about what is happening in Italy politically. There is a far-right candidate, a woman candidate, who has now turned victorious. Her name is Giorgia Meloni. She goes about saying that there are going to be no more mosques that are going to be constructed. There is going to be strict surveillance on the mosques and the madrasas, and the imams will then have to offer their prayers only in Italian language, so that every single word is understandable to the locals. This has been a trend in the United States of America, but particularly in Europe in the past recent months and years. Is this also going to then be a falling out in view of what might or might not happen in Qatar? I'm talking about if there are attacks on the LGBTQ community, and it's plausible that it could happen. If there are extremists that come about making hate speeches or hate attacks or terror attacks, and these are all possibilities, and I'm scared to my wits, and I'm going to be closely watching it. That's further going to alienate the West from the Islamic nations?
Definitely. If this kind of a thing happens there, even forget about them. See, when you go to places like Iran, what's happening in Iran right now, Iran is a society which is a closed society. It is run by Islamic fundamentalists. Even there, a woman's right was taken so much just to be herself, and freedom for what? For showing her face. So it should be a choice given to people the same way it's a choice everywhere. They take away the basic choice of life from these people. Anything to make sure, if anything to make sure which they feel uncomfortable also, I think is going to be vehemently opposed by every Western government. In fact, India should also be the first ones to vehemently oppose it, because in our country, we are the largest democracy in the world. And if we don't stand up for these people, then, we shouldn't be expecting others, because we should be setting the standard which was set by our forefathers of making sure democracy is respected and each and every person is enshrined with those rights in our constitution. So we should ensure that in the world. That's what we are.
Yeah.
Bearers of democracy. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ranjit, for your views. Sunil, I'm going to quick last word from you as well. Would there be a positive sentiment in precedent set if Qatar were to already come out with a rule book that is going to be friendly to the LGBTQ community? Because that's the need of the hour. That's what FIFA and FA and other federations continue to harp upon, but no action right now on the ground.
In fact, this enabling law that we discussed a little earlier in the program is going to be a game changer in this entire FIFA World Cup. If they manage to put everything explicit, follow it to the T, and also take care of the fans, I think Qatar is on the cusp of not only Qatar but also the Islamic countries, including Turkey and the other countries, on the cusp of attracting more and more football tournament. If they fail, mind you, if they fail, then their economy will take such a it'll be like taking 3 steps back and 1 step forward. So if they don't manage to take care of these 3 issues, if they do it, I think they have a winner on their hand.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this telecast. Qatar and the Islamic nations will have to fall in line, or they would be suffering the consequences economically, diplomatically, politically as well, as has been witnessed across the globe, including in Europe and in India. I'll take a quick short break. We'll continue to follow all the developments that are coming out of Qatar. Like I said, the 20th November is when the football tournament begins. It's a global event. The maximum money that has been put in any FIFA tournament up until now. And it is a shame that the human rights of the LGBTQ community particularly, as well as the migrant laborers that are being paid lesser than their actual due, is a concern that has been raised by many. But the question continues to surprisingly be posed on FIFA and the other federations. Why this complete silence?
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.